Hi everyone, this is a tutorial about time lapses. So you've seen I learned to make time lapses of clouds, of the sunset, of the starry sky. It's very first time to do this, but I want to give you some tips of how to then make the time lapse and process. So first of all, I am doing it with the camera. There we go. First, very important thing is to have a tripod. The best mode to make time lapse, in my opinion, is just take many photos. This will require a big SD card because the photos are big, 6,000 times 4,000 pixels, but it's let's say most convenient way. In my opinion, you have full resolution, you can then assemble all the photos together at full resolution, and you can integrate as long as you want. So the starry sky, I had integrations of 30 seconds. Okay, the camera has an intervalometer built in, so this tells basically the shutter to open every n seconds. Okay, now let's see how to combine all the frames that you've taken with your camera. Let's say you've taken 1,000 frames and you want to combine them all. Let's Google time-lapse combine photos, and you will find different versions of different possibilities and suggestions how to do it. One of them is using iMovie and another one is using QuickTime, all right? I will let you discover this yourself. Let's open now iMovie, for example, a new project. Okay, in my case, I have 300 images, okay, and we import them here directly in our thing. All right, I have all the images there, and then I will put them all together with in my project. Okay, so the issue here, while it is processing, the issue here with iMovie is that the minimum duration of an image is in fact 0.1 seconds. It cannot be shorter than that. This means that doing this, you will have a resulting movie with 10 frames per second. This means that a change from one frame to the next will not be continuous, but you will see it changing because your eye works at 30 to 60 frames per second. Okay, so if you record this in this way, you have to save it and then export it and re-import it again and change its speed. Second issue with iMovie, no matter how big are your images, you can save it only maximum at 1080 points, okay? But my images are 6,000 times 4,000 pixels, and which means that I don't want to lose all this resolution. So forget about iMovie for now. Another option that you find on the internet is using QuickTime, and they tell you QuickTime has here option file open collection of images into a movie. Now, as you see here, my QuickTime does not have this option open file, open location, open recent, but not that option. I looked around which version of QuickTime it will be. I installed an older version. There is no way to find it. In an older version, QuickTime 7, you find finally that option to open many images into a movie is only for the professional version of QuickTime. So this means you have to pay for it, and I don't want to do that, so I dropped also QuickTime as an option. The third option is to use a software that is called FFmpeg. Okay, MPEG. This is basically something that probably you have already. It's a command line software. It's maybe not so user-friendly like those with graphical interfaces, but you probably already have it because several pieces of other software that deal with audio and video and plugins, for example, for browsers, use this behind the scenes. So FFmpeg is a cross-platform software to record, manipulate audio and video. It's very versatile, and it does basically everything you've ever dreamt about, videos and audios, and even much more. So I will show you how to deal with this. First of all, we need to go in our directory where all the various files are stored, timelapse 4, and you see there are all the files. FFmpeg has many different options. It has a very nice user manual online with all the various explanations. You will need to get a bit acquainted with it. To build my time-lapse video using FFmpeg, I will do this. This is just a very basic example. First of all, we need to give it the frame rate, which is the frames per second, and in my case I will use something between 20 and 30, depending a bit on how many images you have. Consider that the end result of your time-lapse video depends on how many images you have and on the step in the images, in seconds between the various images. If you have not a large number of images, then the result will be short. For example, in my case with the night sky, I have 30 seconds exposure. The battery of the camera has a limited duration, 3 hours and a half, 3 hours and 40 minutes was in this case. And so with 30 seconds exposure and 10 seconds gap between the exposure means that I have a new image every 40 seconds, and this made a bit more than 300 images. With the daylight, I have 6 seconds gap and very short exposures, and I had more than 1,000 or 1,600 images. If you record at 30 frames per second, 300 images gives you something around 10 seconds, all right, of final time lapse video for effective time, real time of 3 hours and 40 minutes. So the second thing is, depending on the gap, you will have a faster movement or not. Since you have a fixed frame per second, if your gap is between the frames is longer, then the movement, for example, of the clouds will appear faster. So let's say 20 in this case, because I have a lower number of images and I want to have a longer video, a bit longer. 20 instead of 30, I gain a 30% length in the final video. Then I want to see what is the first frame, is called image 5964. So I would like to start from start number 5964. FFmpeg assumes that all the images have consecutive numbers and start from number 1. So this means I start from 5964, I have to tell it. Then I need to give it the pattern. So let's say the file name, okay, in my case is image underscore and then this number that I gave it. So this number is written like 04D and then .jpg. This means 4 digits will start and D is digits, and 04, this means that if I don't have a digit for the thousands, for example, if I had image 100, would be image 000, okay? Then I have to tell to FFmpeg the resolution I would like to have in my final video. In this case, I would like to keep all the full resolution. 6,000 times 4,000 pixels. Then we need to tell it the library I would like to use to convert and to write, and this is a convenient library. Simply, there are several listed in the user manual. Pick the one that is best for you. I use this minus CRF. This is compression factor. this goes between 1 and 51, and let's say to have a good compromise between file size and compression and lossless compression, say quality, I use something like 17 or 18, which is a good compromise. The pixel format, finally, again, check the user manual. We use this format which I found online. It's simply explained there. And finally, we give it the I don't know, time lapse, the output name, time lapse test. Okay, .mp4, mp4. Start it, and this will process all the frames one after the other. It might take a while depending on how many images you have, obviously. And this is writing every image that you took into a different frame of your time-lapse video. Okay, it has almost finished. I have 331 images. So we will see now what happens. But basically, it just stops processing. After processing and preparing this video, you might want to do other operations. For example, if you have clouds and sunset and the horizon, you might want to rotate a bit if the horizon was not perfectly aligned horizontally. I'm not going to show you here how to do it. I will put an image at the end of the video with some commands that I used to produce my time lapses. All right. Okay, it has finished, as you see, and the time-lapse test is finished. Now, one other operation you might want to do if 4K is too big is change the resolution. I told you at the beginning, don't use iMovie because you want full resolution. This is true, but for practical purposes, like carrying around your video and so on, you might want to lower the resolution anyway. I can show you how to do it, and then again, input time lapse test, sorry. Then how we would like to scale it, for example, scale equal -180. This means I want to fix the height of the frame, and -1, I don't know which would be the number that I will get at the end, so just compute it keeping the same ratio between width and height as the original one. Again, CRF F17, and this is what we wrote before already, and the pixel format the same as before, format. And finally, the name, time lapse test, I don't know, the output name. And so, then start, and it will just, this is much faster than the previous operation, as you see. Okay, so this has finished as well. And we can finally watch our test 1080. In my case, I had to rescale because the 4K is a bit too much information for my limited laptop, and so it could not show it properly. I'm going to show it to you in a few seconds, just a very small extract of that. Okay, this was all for how to create the time-lapse with the FFmpeg. A couple of things. In all this, I assume that you already processed your images in your best way. So if you want to change gamma corrections and so on, you have to do it externally on your own with your favorite software. And again, the result of the time-lapse depends on the interval between the frames, on the frame rate, and so on. So for the clouds, I found that an interval of 6 seconds between the different images or less gives you a decent result. Not too fast and not too slow. If you have 10 seconds, for example, of interval for the clouds, then the result will show the clouds moving very fast. The length of your video depends again on the interval, on how many images you have. Consider that the frame rate of the time-lapse video will be fixed, probably 30 frames per second or 25. 20 that I use in this case was already extremely low, but this is because I have not many frames. More frames over with the shorter interval give you a better result, longer and with a decent speed. So I hope this was useful for you, and then you are going to have a lot of fun with time lapses. Like this video and subscribe if you like, and see you next time. Ciao! As promised, here are the instructions.